You're listening to Inside Lebo, a podcast giving you an inside look at Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office.
On quiet streets lined with century-old trees and front porches that still invite conversation, Mount Lebanon's story has never been just about the homes, schools, or business districts. It has always been about the people. The neighbors who stayed, the volunteers who showed up, the parents, mentors, and community builders who shaped a town not only for themselves, but for the generations they would never even meet. Hello, I'm Rachel Windsor, Mount Lebanon's Assistant Public Information Officer and the Senior Editor of Mount Lebanon Magazine.
And I'm Ian McMeans, Assistant Municipal Manager and Municipal Planner. In today's episode of Inside Lebo, brought to you by Trouvers Jewelry, we explore that living history through the experiences of one of Mount Lebanon's residents and a contributing writer to Mount Lebanon Magazine, Mia McPherson. Inspired by the Cornell Legacy Project and the book 30 Lessons for Living, Mia is leading the way with the Lebo Legacy Project, which seeks wisdom from the community's most experienced voices, residents whose lives and perspectives help explain what has made Mount Lebanon a place people are proud to call home. Mia, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So before we dive a little bit into your experiences, I'd love to start with what is the heart of this project. So the Lebo Legacy Project is all about collecting wisdom and insight from longtime residents. What inspired you to start the project? And when you hear the word legacy, what does that mean to you personally?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So first of all, the Lebo Legacy Project is a 15-question survey, and it's geared toward residents or those who have worked or volunteered in Mount Lebanon and who are generally around the age of 65 and over, although if you're a little bit below that, we won't turn you away. And participants can remain anonymous, or if they choose to identify themselves, they can potentially be interviewed for a feature in the magazine. There are all kinds of questions on the survey, like how long have you lived or worked here? What schools did you attend, if any? As well as questions like how has Mount Lebanon compared to other places you may have lived? How have you contributed to the community? What advice would you give for somebody going through tough times, whether it's here in Mount Lebanon or anywhere, and things like that. So in some ways, it's kind of like asking the questions that you wish that you had always asked to your parents or your grandparents or your friends or whatnot. And this is exactly on how to live well right here. I was inspired to do this project because, like you all, I'm normally the interviewer by trade. That's normally my job, so it's great to be the one answering questions here. And so I like to listen to and watch interview shows and podcasts like this one and that kind of thing. So one that I had listened to was an interview with a man named Dr. Carl Pilmer, who you've mentioned, and he had conducted this study around 2002 of people who he calls our wisest citizens, who are people who are 65 and older, and he specifically wanted to know their concrete advice on how to live well. And he came up with all kinds of really interesting insights, some that you would expect and some that you wouldn't, that are detailed in the book. But I kind of thought to myself, that would be great to do here in Mount Lebanon. How exactly did we get to where we are today? How did we get such a great reputation? And who are the people who built that reputation? And so that's where the idea for this project was born. I have also had a lot of great experience through the magazine and through being active in the community, meeting so many different people and hearing their advice, especially also through groups like the Mount Lebanon Moms Network, which I'm a part of, and through school, which I like to be really active with. I've met at least like a handful of people over the last year, super interesting, who have no ties to Mount Lebanon whatsoever, who just through their independent research, they found out that this was a good place to live, whether it was cost of living wise, safety wise, school wise, proximity to downtown. They came here for that and for the community, which they have heard is one of the best. So for them and for myself, who didn't grow up here, I want to know, like I said, how did we get here and how do we continue that legacy? How do we continue to keep it a great place and also improve on the things that we want to or need to improve upon? And your question of legacy, I think you said it perfectly. You said it beautifully. It's an intentional effort to shape the community for the next generation and people who will never meet. But we still know that it's important to do that.
Great. So segueing off of that, one of the things that makes this project special is that it focuses, like you said, not only on the past, but on the future. So Mount Lebanon has changed a lot over the last 100+ years, but many people still describe it as a place, like you said, with a very strong sense of community. So from your perspective and what you've heard from people, what has always kind of made this town so unique?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I was trying to answer that question myself before I came up with this project, and I can't seem to put my finger on it, which is why I wanted to ask people. When I don't know the answer, like my answer is to ask a bunch of people and see what they think. My feeling is that it's all about the people. We have so many accomplished and intelligent, thoughtful, influential neighbors in our midst, and it's, I think, obvious that the proximity to downtown and the reputation for safety and good schools, like we talked about, has been a huge draw. But through this project, I want to hear from those people who have made this a unique place, and why did they stay here?
So how long have you been connected with Mount Lebanon, and what first brought you here?
Yeah, so I've lived here for 8 years. I didn't grow up in Mount Lebanon. I grew up in Greenfield. And when I graduated high school and went to college, I lived in Ohio for a long time. And after that, I lived in New York City. And when I started thinking about having a family, coming back to Pittsburgh was top of the list. And so I talked to family members and people who lived here, and especially my stepfather, who was almost a lifelong resident of Mount Lebanon, and my mom, they both said that Mount Lebanon's the place to be. Like, this has got to be top of your list. There's a couple other places to consider, but this is the place to be. And so, here I am. They were completely right. I mean, I think that compared to other places that I've lived, it's 100% the neighbors and the people who I've met.
Great. So what were some of your first impressions of the community that you might remember from when you first moved here?
Yeah, that's funny because I came here from New York City and I lived there for only 4 years, but I didn't realize like how deprived I was of nature. So when I came here, I was like, oh, it's green. Oh, my yard has trees in it. Like, this is amazing. And it's not like my house is a palace. It's not like I live in the woods, because I don't. But compared to, living in a 500 square foot apartment, this seems like a wonderful nature preserve to me. Another really funny story about when I first moved here, which is very characteristic, I think, of the community, is that you know how each door locks differently. Well, I didn't know, I guess, or I forgot that my door locks automatically when you close it. So if you don't have your key, you can't get back in. So, of course, I ended up locking myself out, but there was a window that was open. So I was trying to get through the window because I didn't have my phone with me. It was in the house. And my neighbor, who I hadn't introduced myself to yet, he comes out like almost immediately. And he's like, what are you kids doing out there? Where are your parents? And it was so funny and so cute because I, went over and introduced myself, and I said, actually, I live here. Like, I am the parent, but not quite yet. I hadn't had my son yet, but I'm an adult, and we just moved in, and just locked myself out. And he ended up being like the kindest neighbor, which I could say of like almost all of my neighbors. But you could take that story a couple different ways, but to me, I was just like very touched by the fact that there are people who are looking out for the community and looking out for each other, and if they see something that they feel like is not right, they are not shy about saying so. So I was really appreciative that I had somebody who I knew was going to be looking out for all of us.
Yeah, that's a cute story. I think many longtime residents talk about feeling really connected to their neighborhoods, their schools, the library, parks, any sort of those like local traditions that they take part of. So were there any particular places or experiences that helped you to feel at home here?
Yeah, so many. I guess top of my list would be the Mount Lebanon Moms Network, which now I'm the president of. But back when I first moved here in 2018, I had my son in 2020. So it was in the midst of COVID, and I had kind of just moved here. So I'm not sure, what to attribute to which one of those life changes. But I was writing as a contributing writer for the magazine. One of the first stories that you all assigned to me was to write about the Moms Network and the fact that it was their 10-year anniversary, and I didn't know anything about them, and I was a new mom. And so I think like you guys knew what you were doing, because pairing me with that group was like the best thing that happened to me as a mom. And I owe so much of my connection to the community to that group, because number one, anywhere we go, whether it's like music class, swim class, school, like we know at least one person, if not, 10 people already who are there. And I feel like that's so characteristic of Mount Lebanon. If you start to get involved in the community, like we've done things with the library, we've done things, with the fire department, we've done all kinds of community activities. And like the more you get involved, the more people you know, and the more people who are happy to see you when you get there, that's just like so priceless to me and makes it feel 100% like this is home.
Great. Thank you very much. And also, that very nice job including our municipal slogan in that response as well.
I didn't even know. What's the slogan?
This is home.
There we go.
Yes. So we are going to take a quick break here with a word from our sponsor, Trouvers Jewelry. And when we come back, we will discuss how Mount Lebanon has changed over the years, the values worth preserving, and the lessons future generations can carry forward. So we will be right back with more Inside Lebo.
Looking for that perfect piece of jewelry? At Trouvers Jewelry, you're not just a customer, you're part of the family. Locally owned by Mount Lebanon residents Rob and Kay Trouver, Trouvers has specialized in exquisite craftsmanship and custom jewelry design for over 30 years. Rob is an expert goldsmith, ensuring your jewelry is created with the utmost skill and care. Whether you're looking for something timeless or one of a kind, Trouvers delivers it all. Visit us at the corner of West Liberty and Piermont Avenue, or check us out online at trouvers.com. At Trouvers, it's personal.
Welcome back, and today we're speaking with Mia McPherson as part of an ongoing effort to preserve the wisdom and experiences of longtime Mount Lebanon residents. So Mia, when you think about the Mount Lebanon that you're in today compared to when you first became part of the community, what changes stand out the most?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I think I've been here 8 years, which is long to me, but compared to some of the folks that I'm sure we'll hear from in the survey, that's probably no time at all. So I can't really say much about what has changed about the community, but I can say that I think what's changed most is me, like the phases of life that I've gone through as, an adult with no child, then an adult with a newborn, a toddler, a preschooler, an elementary school kid. Like in each of those phases of my life, I've been looking for a different kind of connection. And each time I'm looking for something, Mount Lebanon either has it or it makes it possible for me to create that if that's something that I feel like I want to do. So like I had mentioned before, I've been lucky to be involved in different activities. Like I've done a lot of gardening, how I mentioned, I found my new love of nature. So I'm always doing some gardening or taking part in gardening exchanges or, plant sale fundraisers that are going on. We've done swim lessons for my son, and then I did swim lessons myself because I did not know how to swim locally. We've done music class, we've done tennis clinics through the Racket Center. Like I had mentioned, through the Moms Group, we've been involved in so many different organizations and events around town, and most of which have been such a big inspiration because my neighbors are the ones who have started these things. Like a neighbor of mine was instrumental in starting the Relay for Life race. A neighbor of mine is a founder of the Lebo Coalition who does the really great events like Lebo Celebrates Black History. Some of my neighbors have done like so many amazing things, and just through meeting them and understanding that they have had such a big impact on this community makes me feel like, oh, I can do that too.
Yeah, that's great. I've always felt, personally living here too, like that, especially through our rec department and everything else, that Mount Lebanon has things for people of all ages and all ability levels. So like you said, some of the introductory classes you've been able to do, and then some of the, more advanced classes and other things for adults, that we have something for everyone. Like you said, if you want to get into something, it's very easy to find something for your age group and your ability level.
It's so true. And even if you don't know what your thing is, which was my thing for a long time, I didn't know what my hobbies were, especially as a new mom. Like, what do you mean? I have some, I can do something. I don't know what that thing would be. If you don't know what your thing is at all, there are so many programs, whether it's through the library or through the municipality or through, any of these other nonprofits. There's so much you can explore, and so many of those times people are so happy that you're there and they're happy to welcome you in, and you can, be more participatory if you want, or you can just come and enjoy it. And if you like it, great. If not, you can try something else. And if you have something in mind that you want to create, that's 100% possible, just like this survey.
And are there any traditions, values, or parts of community life that you hope never disappear?
Yeah, I know we've talked a lot about community and neighbors, but I hope that the friendliness and the willingness of neighbors to talk to each other and to say hi to each other and to meet each other, I hope that never goes away. I've had so many great interactions with my neighbors, whether it was like somebody helping each other through a life change, or even just like, hey, I'm going to the store, is there anything that you need? I feel like that's such a wonderful environment to live in. And I also feel like the can-do attitude that we talked about, I don't know if it's specifically a Pittsburgh thing, to be like scrappy and to make our way regardless of the consequences, but I feel like in Mount Lebanon, we found a way to not only survive, but to have thrived for a really long time now. So I'm really looking forward to meeting the people who have started these traditions and groups so that we can get their insight on how we can make sure to keep it that way and to improve what we feel like needs to be improved.
So you've mentioned being a relatively young mom in the community. So what advice would you give to younger residents or families who want to contribute positively to the community, and how best to get involved?
Yeah, I would say number one, just start talking to people. Like we have been speaking about here, like I feel like not everyone, but most people are willing to talk to you, to answer your questions, to help you out here, to say hi. Like number one, if you're not sure where to start, just start by talking to your neighbor. And it's a lot of work, I know, to put yourself out there if you're new and you don't know anybody yet, and to join a new group or to show up somewhere where you don't know anyone and you're by yourself maybe, or you're just yourself and a child and you don't know the lay of the land, so to speak. And it doesn't always work out. I've tried things in groups that I felt like, this is not quite a right fit for me. But it's important, I think, for younger residents and families to keep trying. Like if it doesn't work the first time, that's okay. If it doesn't work the second time, that's okay. Like I had mentioned before, I did an interview for the magazine with the Mount Lebanon Moms Network founder, and the group's been going for about 14 years now. And I asked her the same exact question, and her answer was the same. She said, just keep trying and you'll meet the right people. And she's right.
Yeah, that's great advice. So the Cornell Legacy Project focused heavily on wisdom gained through lived experience. So looking back, what would you say is one lesson that life has taught you that you wish more people understood earlier?
Oh, there's so many lessons, but one that I particularly like lately is that I feel like it's okay to follow your own path, or what you feel like might be a quote-unquote different path. Sometimes in somewhere like Mount Lebanon or other places where we see that there's a lot of success, or there's a lot of means, or there's a lot of resources here, it's easy to think that you need to live a certain way to be able to attain that or to replicate that. But I think in reality, we all have challenges and we all have issues and differences, and it's okay, like we had talked about before, to say like, hey, some of these things don't work for me, or some of these things aren't for me. And just because everybody seems to be living in a certain way, or their house looks a certain way, or their yard looks a certain way, or everybody's participating in a particular group, that doesn't mean that you need to do those things too, or that I need to do those things. So to have the courage to do things a little bit differently, I feel like gives other people that same courage too. And in that spirit, I feel like the Lebo Legacy Project, it's not just about preserving what others have done in the past so we can continue it. It's about understanding, where did people take those risks in the past? Where did they do something, quote unquote, differently? And then how did that end up shaping our community for the better?
So as a last question, when people look back on Mount Lebanon years from now, what do you hope they'll say about this current generation of residents?
Yeah, wow. I hope they say that we didn't mess it up. I mean, that we have a good thing here. It's not perfect, but we did right by it, and that we made it better. And I hope that when people look back, on this generation and this project, they say that we didn't forget where we came from, that we didn't forget what people went through to get here, and that we use that wisdom to continue the legacy while putting our own spin on it.
Great. So just as one other follow-up question, if people want to take part in the survey that you mentioned, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, thank you for asking. We do have the survey online. It's mountlebanon.org/Lebo Legacy. If you're a person who does not want to take the survey online, we totally understand that. You can either speak to a person and we will record your answers, or you can do a hard copy of the survey. And you could contact the magazine, you could contact the library, and we will make arrangements to help you with that. We also have plans to be at First Fridays to have a setup there and to hopefully take part in different community groups around the area over the summertime to meet with people as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, Mia, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your perspective with us today. And the Lebo Legacy Project is inspired by the belief that wisdom grows through shared experience and that communities grow stronger when those stories are shared. So to learn more about the Lebo Legacy Project or participate in the survey, as Mia said, you can visit mountlebanon.org/Lebo Legacy. So that's mtlebanon.org/LEBO Legacy.
That's all for this edition of Inside Lebo, sponsored by Trouvers Jewelry, produced by Marcia Morgenstern, with music by Drew Monod and graphics by Amy Robinson. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes, and we'll see you next time with more from Mount Lebanon.
Thanks for listening to Inside Lebo, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office. Learn more about all things Lebo at mountlebanon.org or by following our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.